Okay, we're just waiting for the Roku to come on, so give it a minute.
Okay. Okay.
YouTube is quick, but Roku takes a little while.
Okay.
And good morning, Brent,
It's Brent here.
Kimberly, and everybody else that's on here.
Good morning and happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Good morning. Happy Sabbath.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Happy Sabbath to you all. Once again, Sandy, thank you so much for inviting me to come speak again. I haven't been on for a while. Sabbaths are sort of different here by us at the moment. We really try and keep it holy and do the right things and so on. And so when I get to this type of the evening, us old people, not like you young people, we get a bit tired. So it is already, what is it, 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock? Yeah, 7 o'clock in the evening here by me. And so, yeah, our Sabbath is now officially over. I see the sun has just gone down. So this evening, before prayer, I just quickly want to just set the scene. Okay, so this last week, I have, well, actually 2 weeks, I've been busy preparing since Sandy asked, for sermon titles and so on for Passover. And I sort of volunteered for this evening. And I have an idea of what I want to speak to. And so I started working about 2 weeks ago, but if you guys know me, I tend to veer off into rabbit holes and things and topics, etc., etc. And then I end up at the end of the day not getting to where I am. So I had an initial structure of what I wanted to do, but this thing has now evolved into a 3-part series, of which this is basically going to be the first, just I call it the light part of the series, the scene setter for Passover. Because I think we are really starting to now really be in those prophetic times. Okay. And I'm not going to try and illustrate events to say this, and this. What I'm rather going to try and do is to show this is what happens at the moment. And it is as a result of what has been coming for a while. Where it's going, I don't know, because none of us know the future. But that the present has changed in such a dramatic way. And it's not just because of the political scene or the financial scene or whatever it might be. It is because mankind is busy changing at a rapid rate in terms of the technology. And that, more than ever, like I said just now, is one of the major issues worldwide that is going to dictate where the world is going in the next 3 years. And so that is why, like I mentioned to you guys, I've built a bot and it's doing some research. It's actually doing research while I'm talking to you on my desktop at the moment. It's been busy since 3 o'clock this afternoon. I gave it a long list of things I wanted to do. And so it's actually drawing up research things for me on topics that I asked for. And so this evening or this morning, I just want to talk about that first part of it, the prophetic foundations in the shaken world and the call to true worship. Right up front, my stand has always been, when it comes to prophecy, it all ends with worship. And so in this sort of ever increasing turmoil, politically, economically, and spiritually, we need to discern what is going on. But it's getting difficult because there's so much static and noise because of social media. And how do we navigate through 2025? And guys, can you believe it? We're already at April's doorstep. Can you believe it? I was supposed to have my operation in a week's time, and the Lord has blessed me with a colon that's on the heel. And so I just praise Him. That is why I cannot express my joy at living at the moment. And so this presentation, just for a start, is going to try and examine and just touch briefly on prophecy, because I know people like Keith, there's quite a few of you here, Keith and Brent and whatever, are really are prophecy experts. I'm not one. But I had to have a good look in the last couple of weeks about what Seventh-day Adventist prophecy says, and test it against what is coming out from everywhere all over the globe from Seventh-day Adventists as well. And so if we know what is right and what is wrong, if we go back to those basic roots, we basically will be in the right, how would I put it, right frame for the Lord to protect us. If we really understand, if we don't go like I go in the last 2 weeks off at tangents and get diverted, etc., etc. If we know what the end game is going to be, and please read Ellen White's book on end times again. It really is worth it. I've got it here. I was just reading through it again. We need to really just revisit that again. So just a prayer to open. Our Heavenly Father, as we gather this evening to study the prophecies around your word, please lead us in the correct manner. And Lord, we ask that you keep it uncomplicated, but also that you open our eyes to see that whatever is coming our way, that your hand will protect us. Wherever we sit in the world, wherever we are, that we always know that you are the one in charge. Lord, as I go into this message this evening, I ask that you lead me, because it is not my traditional way of preaching or doing a sermon. I am not a prophecy expert. I love watching people on prophecy, Lord. But this has become very evident to me what is happening here. And I thought I would share this as you have led me over the last 2 weeks. I praise you, Lord, for my health. And I pray for every single person on here that you keep your hand over them and keep them safe and healthy. I ask this in the mighty name of your Son, Yeshua. Amen. All right, so the sermon title. So let's start. Okay, so I'm going to just in short look at the political landscape worldwide, because every single YouTube video I've been watching on Adventism has been along the lines of either political, the rising global order, etc., etc., etc. And I've watched numerous of them. You know, there's so much out there at the moment, and I sort of had to stop at one stage because it seemed that there was like people were not giving the same message. It seemed like nobody was on the same page anymore when it came to Seventh-day Adventists looking at the political landscape. So from a USA perspective, from a European perspective, from an African perspective, and even from an Australian perspective, which covers the whole world, okay? And my friend in South America, and I spoke to her this morning, everybody's got a different view of really what is going on in the world. And so I'd like to sort of share, me being right on the other side of the world than you guys, how does the political landscape look on my side, and how is it affecting my view of prophecy? Okay. Then, of course, the state of the church. It's never not been what it is at the moment. I think just that people, because they have access, much more access to good information. And like I said, these days, if you know how to program a bot, and it's not that difficult, you can have a research agent actually physically just asking it to go and do certain research for you, and that you can refine. I've become very adept at it. Okay. I've actually written a book as well, a 90-page book using my bot. But that will come soon. I'm starting to get like Brent now, but I'm not going to step onto Brent's ground because he is absolutely the master at what he does, and so on. So I'm definitely not going there, because I think the Lord has led him to produce such a masterpiece of work. And so mine will be just on this type of thing. I still remember when I came to Terabella the first time, and Sandy asked me to just do a couple of presentations. It was my testimony, and it was on the state of the economic situation in the world. And you guys was then 2013 at something called the debt ceiling, and you're still there. Okay, so we like 11 years later or 12 years later, and the USA, and I see your president has taken the debt ceiling away now. So yeah, very interesting that. And if I look back at that PowerPoint, from where it was to where it's now, it has really, the United States in terms of debt has gone back considerably. And how does that impact things like the church, or in the case of funds being given, and I'll show you in a moment, the funding of people who traditionally are there to do welfare, to do the ADRA work and things like that. How does that affect it? Then, of course, with that, the apostasy, and I'll show you a bit of that, but I don't want to really point fingers, because normally three fingers point back at me, okay? And then just a call to stand firm in the truth, which will be my basically my sermons during Passover, hopefully, if the Lord blesses us, and then just a bit of a conclusion. Okay, so let me begin. All right, so I think George referred to the fact that in terms of what is happening in the world, it is very much dictated by your current president. I'm not going to say if I'm pro or not, but I think people know where I stand. Okay. And as George correctly alluded to, he has offered what is called the boer, or the boer. If you see there on the slide, it says kill the boer. And I'll show you in a moment what that means. The boer community, which is basically, in your case, it would be the people who moved out west. Okay. Your pioneers, the cowboys and so on the wagons. We had them in South Africa as well, and they, in the 17th century or 1700s, not 17th century, 1700s, they moved up from the Cape Point, where the Dutch and the French and the English had the Cape Town and the port, and they moved inland, and they became known as the Boers. And Boers, if you translate it, means farmer. So boer is in Afrikaans, and a farmer is its meaning in English. And tradition in this country, that is the people who produce the food in our country. And we've got massive agriculture here. Diana's, for instance, she is a specialist in agriculture. She does all the major financing for big farmers and things like that, for any amount of things like vegetables and sugarcane and cattle farming and everything. She does those deals. She deals with those very big clients where she is. And so, if you've listened or not heard, there was a lot of said. Our current government has now to date put 142 race-based laws on our statute. Now, by the way, it's affecting our church as well here in South Africa. Okay, because of our history, we actually had a segregated church, or apartheid church, here in South Africa in Adventism. And right up until I got to the church, call it the apartheid church, was still fighting the churches that were outside. Let's call them the Zulu churches and the Xhosa churches, to come into the main conferences. And they lost their case, which is correct, because the church needs to be one. We cannot be divided in a country like South Africa, where the white population makes out 7% of the total population. And so and it was totally run by Boer people. And so On the right is a gentleman, very, very wealthy, very well-known music artist, entrepreneur in South Africa. And he's got a certain view about white people, which, by the way, is taught in South African universities. And I want you to listen to what he's going to say in a moment. Okay, so on the left-hand side, George, is the reason that your president so kindly has offered us asylum. And this was on the 21st of March, which is what, a week ago. We had something called Human Rights Day. So let's see if you can see. I hope it's on. Let's see if you can hear it. I'm going to put it on in a minute. There we are.
Kichima, Simran Konto Alliance, shoot to kill Yamaza, kill the poor, the farmer, kill the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa, brr, pa, pa. Attention.
With his incitement to commit mass murder on Saturday, Malema has confirmed the urgency and timing of that warning.
Okay, you heard that. All right, assume if you don't answer, you've heard it. This gentleman on white people.
Weakest whites that the world has ever seen. And again, I want to explain this so that people don't think that, I'm being racist by saying whites are inferior genetically. We've got different categories of evolution of apes. You know what I mean? If we are all apes, we are at the echelon of that. Whites are a step below because they've also got Neanderthal DNA. You know what I mean? Which is a previous ancestor of ours. So we expect to have Ubuntu, humanity. Unfortunately, by the strictest definition of what a human being is, white people are just below human beings. You are negotiating with an animal, a wild dog that you're trying to train to be tamed, to be upopi, you who guards your house. You can never do that. Thus, expecting Ubuntu from them, we're like, you stole our land, you butchered our people and everything else, and we just want justice. We're not out for your blood. We're not chopping off your heads. We're not doing anything. Why don't you guys understand that? Why don't you guys have Ubuntu? Why don't you guys have a heart? They don't, because they're incapable of that. You cannot expect the same behavior of a human being that you're expecting of a dog. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if a dog chews up your couch, you're not going to beat your dog because he chewed up your couch. You know what I mean? You're going to be like, damn, why didn't I lock the dog somewhere where it can't chew up the couch? So us as black people, we need to now start being smarter. We need to start understanding what we're dealing with, because we're not dealing with a who. We're dealing with a what.
Imagine.
And when we deal with this what of savages, because that's their history, everywhere in the world, white people have gone and progressed. They've progressed because of savagery. They've killed people. They've decimated populations everywhere, around the entire globe. There's not a place where the sun shines that white people have not decimated the people.
Okay, so I hope you've heard that. Folks, that's what I live with, and that's what every single white person or Boer lives with in this country every day. Now, the incident on the right-hand side was the third biggest political party in this country. Its leader has not yet called for the slaughter of white people. Okay, according to him, that was on the news. He's there, was interviewed. That whole singing of that song has been found by our apex court as not being offensive. So you can know where our judiciary stands as well. And I know in America, if I listen to what's happening there, you are suffering the same type of problems with your judiciary, whatever way it might go. But, we sit and listen to the issues that America also experiences. And by the way, it's the same thing in the UK, where people are locked up for merely saying certain things on Facebook. So freedom of speech, by the way, folks, does not exist anymore. It's a fallacy. It does not exist. That is why I'm very careful about what I say. But yeah, anyway, so that's just sort of where South Africa sits. And George, that is why your president offered the Boers, which I'm one of, and my family is, refugee status. But George, you'll be sad to know that unfortunately I won't be making that trip. Neither will my son. Just like you love your country, I love mine. My Lord is here in this country, my Lord and God. And as a South African, as much as I like your country and coming to visit you folks, this is where I am. And this is where I do my mission work. And this is how I make it out for myself. I live under threat every day. You saw the amount of people in that stadium. There were 60,000 people. Most of them do not have an education. In this country, we sit at this stage with nearly 60% unemployment out of 60 million people. So yeah. Anyway, so looking through everything and whatever, up on my screen popped up a little thing. And by the way, it wasn't on the pastor's Facebook page. It was on another pastor's Facebook page that I saw this quote. And it said, the mark of the beast will involve cutting off funding for any organization that does not align with its Christian values. And then the pastor quotes Revelation 13:16, and he says, and he causeth all, both small and rich, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive the mark in their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save that he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So I asked this other pastor where this thing was shared with and went forward to. I said, Nama, tell me please, what exactly was meant by this question or the statement? Are you who are you defining as cutting off funding? Now, I'm sure if I ask the audience here, what does that mean? Top of mind would be what is happening in your country at the moment. All right. Your president has not, he has cut off funding, but he's done it for a reason. Okay. There's a reason, and he's doing what he was elected on. And so I innocently asked the question. So is it not about them wanting to save money? Surely there's a logical reason for this. Okay. And there was a discussion, and this other pastor, who, by the way, is in Australia, got very agitated because he thought I was taking on this pastor. And I said, I'm not taking him on, but I have found that his ideas very much are in line with the woke agenda. And I said, I did a sermon last year, which I addressed it, and I gave the evidence. And I said, you know what? People are actually at this stage coming and taking the prophecies that they have been taught and diverting them into something else, okay, for their own agenda. I said, if I look at this statement, all right, there might be truth in it. I don't know. But when I asked you the question, you became agitated, all right? So what did I do? I went to the person who originally made the statement, and I asked him a question and whatever. Well, and I said to him, I've before on the 29th of September 2024, I placed a statement on you and I explained to you why you were wrong. And you and most of your people on your Facebook page came at me, Adventists, saying that there's nothing wrong with being woke. Okay. And whatever. I said, in fact, I've got the screenshots. So this is what he said to me. He said, please share how I've a woke ideology. He's got a sermon called Woke, the Wokeness, how to be woke in the wokeness. Okay. But he says, I need to share. And I've done. I've got all the proof. He says, this is a big accusation. You made one claim that I teach that the mark will involve in economic sanctions. You quoted Ellen White and then implied that what I said was different, rather than economic sanctions being based solely on alignment with social or political values. And folks, this is where the problem becomes, okay? Because if you are politically inclined, I can tell you now how you see prophecy will dictate how you by your political view. And in my Passover things, I will actually show you what Ellen White says and what happens around that, and why we cannot allow it, why we cannot go step into the it's this side or that side. Because according to me, and I would assume according to you, the beast is the United States, irrespective of which government is there. Okay? Now, there might be a person in there that is in government when this whole thing happens. Okay, fair enough. I can accept that. But if you, 4 years ago, when there was another guy in office, didn't say a word, and now suddenly you become with this, and these things run parallel with policies within your country, then I have to ask the question, but are you not are you not politicizing this thing? Okay. Are you not trying to make it what you believe and trying to influence people in that way? And of course, he went on to say, or did you see me say cutting off funding for any organization that does not align with this Christian values? How could you make such a leap? It's based on biases, etc. And then he says, now he goes back. Now he's trying to defend himself. He says, is addressing racism woke culture? No, it's not. Because if you think of the slide I just showed you, okay, where does that thinking come from? The one on the right, Kill the Boer, okay, started 10 years ago. Well, 12 years ago, it was sung the first time, okay, when woke up. These people are all on their cell phones. They are all on this Americanized type of social justice type of thing, okay? And they believe that they have been wronged by a minority in their country. Because we went through 10 years of that not being an issue. And when woke came in, when Black Lives Matter came in, the first thing that happened was this. We started having these songs. We started having this anti-minority sentiment. The guy on the right, talking about how he sees a white person, is taught the last 12 years in all the major universities in our country, critical race theory. They actually teach that. And what they do is they put an African spin on it. They call it Ubuntu, being having a soul. So a person like myself cannot have a soul. Therefore, I am not a human. Therefore, I'm a dog. Therefore, if you murder me, you don't murder a human. So it's okay. Woke. And you see what a person like this doesn't understand. He thinks that racism is only one-sided. It actually cuts both sides. And so when a pastor starts introducing this into it, and I looked at the various comments, and this is what my research bot is doing at the moment as well. He's taking out quite a bit of stuff. So I call me, it's actually a she, it. I started seeing not just him, but others within the church, which I'll show you during Passover, just what they are saying. And folks, this is not what I learned when I came into the church. Okay. It was the Roman system is a system. It's not the Pope. Okay. So I'm now my third Pope. I think you guys have been more popes than me. Okay. The man is lying on his deathbed at the moment. I don't think he's going to do anything major. The Vatican might. Okay. The system might. But at this stage, the Roman Catholic Church is still in turmoil financially and reputational wise as well. It's not growing. In fact, it's going backwards. Okay. But the Adventist Church also has its fights at the moment, and it's getting bigger. And the whole thing with Dr. Conrad Vine and Ron Kelly pushed this whole thing to a point. And so now you find people within the church, and I wrote, okay, so it says, hijacking the beast and image. Okay, another misuse is invoking beast terminology to demonize political opponents or policies in a purely secular sense. And this is what's happening. For instance, some might claim the beast represents any tyrannical government or even a particular administration they dislike. In 2025, we have seen Adventist thought leaders imply that the image of the beast, the church-state union, is fulfilled exclusively by right-wing evangelical politics, for instance, the MAGA movement, to the extent that the concern about left-wing circular authoritism is minimized. So Pastor Meyer, speaking at a religious liberty conference, argued that the end-time trouble will come from religious fundamentalists, the far right. So kill the Boer, because we are seen as the far right. And that fear of secular Marxism is a distraction. In his interpretation, the beast was always in a lamb-dragon state. from the Pilgrim Fathers onward. And our focus should be on the runaway fundamentalism rather than secularism. And while there's truth in a warning about right-wing church-state fusion, a woke twist on prophecy would frame it in a highly partisan way, essentially becoming or echoing leftist talking points under the cover of Adventist prophecy. And ladies and gentlemen, it's happening everywhere. This can lead to seeing everything conservative as proto-beastly and everything progressive as righteous, which is not what the prophecy teaches. Revelation 13 does not give license for partisan bias. It indicts all Christian politics. Okay? The image of the beast will be a uniting of religious and secular powers to impose false worship. It could harness conservative religion, so we can expect a Sunday law scenario, but it might also cloak itself in humanitarian or environmental rhetoric, for instance, Climate Sunday for the common good. A truly prophetic viewpoint will be to watch and pray on all fronts, not aligning with wholesale and worldly movement. And so guess what? The pastor then doubled down. So on the left here, if you sit in front of your screen, he posted this 2 days ago. Okay? And once again, I need to put him off because he's not good for my soul. Okay? But look at what he says there at the top left-hand corner. He says, MAGA and Adventism clasp hands, join forces. And I looked at this and I'm going, who's on here? I see there's Pastor Kelly, there's Danny Shelton, and a couple other people I know here, and then some I don't know. And I thought, okay, what is this about? I opened the thing and I see it's like getting together and people discussing the whole COVID story and whatever. They're going to this church and going to talk about it, etc., etc., etc. Okay, well, it's a health thing. Okay, where people are discussing why you should not have the thing we were not wanting to have. Okay, and if you look at the bottom left here, the very first comment, there you'll see there's 3 comments only at this stage. It says, brother, I think you're misjudging this one. This whole thread, okay, the last 2 days were people, after I posted that first round of things. Okay, sorry, let's do this. And people coming at me and then starting to see what I was saying. Now those very same people are saying, but what are you doing here? You are politicizing this. Okay? This has got nothing to do with MAGA. Okay? So here he actually proved his previous comment. Okay? That is politically focused. He's not focused on the prophecy itself. And so you'll not believe it. An hour ago, what was it? Okay. I was looking at I just wanted to look at the thing and I said, my goodness, look here. He edited the post. After now you can see there's 341 comments. Okay. And I can tell you, you can go look here. People are not complimentary. They say, well, you know, now you are really taking prophecy to cover your own political stance. And he says, I've removed my original 1 cent commentary, restating the theme of the article, so it's just a link article. All people on this flyer may or may not support MAGA. You see, he made a wide statement, and I can tell you, every Adventist on this thing saw it, including Danny Shelton, who regularly invites him to 3ABN to preach. That's a good way not to get invited again. So the issue I've been warning about is bigger than that. So he's trying to back out of it. So guys, as this introduction, as we're looking at setting the scene, okay, we understand that both in the world, there's political turmoil. You have the United States at the moment, okay. Your president is the most unique one in history. Some might say good, some might say bad. Okay, I am not going to express a view apart from the fact that he has basically told his assumed longtime allies, Europe and the United States, that they need to step up when it comes to things like NATO. He's no longer wanting to really be involved in the war in Ukraine. Him and the Russian president are exchanging pleasantries, which was not possible 3 years ago. And yeah, he's doing a lot of things. This week is what we're going to be calling the tariff week. So his tariffs are all rolling out this week, which we in South Africa are sitting waiting here. What is going? Because if America now, oh yeah, and by the way, you must now understand, with all of this going on here in my country, our government has taken to the fact that they think that they are still protected by the whole Nelson Mandela halo. Okay. And they've taken to absolutely insulting your president. Our ambassador was ejected from the United States last week for insulting Mr. Trump. You cannot believe what this does to us as citizens of South Africa, especially those ones who are favorable to the United States, irrespective of who sits there. Okay, because we've got something called AGOA, which is a trade agreement, which is the biggest trade agreement in Africa, where we have free access to your markets with our agricultural produce and things like that. We export cars to you, BMWs and Volkswagens, which is built in South Africa. If your president decides to stop that or impose a tariff, he will put out roughly about 2 million people out of jobs here. That's the effect. And then if you go look back at the top there, guess who's going to get blamed for that? What will the people in red be singing? So economic instability is what we're looking at. And then with all of that comes the spiritual challenges, which I've referred to and saying to you guys, you know what? It has a huge effect on somebody who sits in the middle of this cauldron. Sandy mentioned the things that are happening in the Philippines. It's just the world has gone bigger. It's like the building of Babel, and those towers falling over. Okay, it's happening everywhere. And honestly, I don't want to link that to the Lord is showing us stuff, but folks, the Lord is showing us. He really is. And I'm really coming around to that thought at the moment. The big thing also is then to discern the times where we are. And we can't always for sure say where we are. But I think, as Adventists, this is why we need to restudy prophecy from a pioneer perspective. To remain faithful to all our foundational truths. To not move away. And Bible Explorations for me encompasses that. Sandy has not moved from her opinion let me rephrase, from what her ministry believes that originates from what her dad put in place. She's never wavered from that. She's like that proverbial rock that's there. You cannot crack that rock. Okay? And for that, I have a lot of respect because it creates a good foundation for any person that comes onto this ministry and listens to the people who speak here. The examination of prophecy, like I said, and then the church's internal struggles. So I've spoken about the current Pope. He's ill. I was watching some things. But we must not forget that there are other leaders also with links to the Roman Catholic Church. I saw a picture of Mr. Trump with one of them the other day, an Orthodox person and so forth. There's a lot of them in Europe at the moment. The churches are coming alive on that side. You have, of course, then from another point of view, you've got the Jewish scenario in the Middle East as well. You have got the Muslims and so forth. And so all of these things are impacting on a huge amount of people's spiritual life. And it's becoming more and more secular by the day, if it's not already way past anything that we've ever seen. So false worship systems has now really become the order of the day here in my country. There is 3 court cases, huge ones, of pastors that came from other countries, Nigeria, I think the one's from Malawi and the other one's from Kenya. They set up mega churches in our country. They are very charismatic, very much like you have the big churches in America, and they also utilize politics and economic hardship to drive their ministries. And I think that's going to be part of the false worshipship systems we are going to see in the future. These things are all going to prey on people who are looking for an out, and they mingle it. The guy who I saw, very first Adventist I ever saw, was a guy called Mark Woodman, who died of brain cancer in 2010. He was 34. He was the guy who basically I saw very first time live presenting. Oh, what do I want to say now? Uh, sorry, I forgot my train of thought there for a moment. So these false worship churches are popping up everywhere. And so the other thing that I'm picking up as I'm going along, looking at false systems of worship, is very interesting, because the church is now, the official church is now taking a line as well to follow this, to say that ministries outside of the church are with the harlots of the mother, because they are against the Trinity, which comes from where? It's against certain other teachings within the church. The things that the church have silently rejected, people still believe in. And so for a lot of us who sit outside and do ministry outside, we are now lumped with the mother of harlots. That's a very interesting thing, and I'm busy researching that as well. And there's a certain amount of people starting to talk in that manner as well within the church. And what they are saying is, and think for a moment about this, what they are saying, for instance, about the feasts, okay, or for instance, the father and son, that relationship and how the Spirit fits into it. That system, they say, is an attempt to usurp God's authority. So I read something while I was doing research. A person, also not going to mention names, very senior person, was saying, okay, that you cannot claim to believe in Yeshua or Jesus, okay, if you reject the Trinity. Therefore, you are trying to take on God's power. You're trying to usurp God's authority by doing that. Who usurped God's authority in terms of a Seventh Adventist? Who was the third in line? The very same Satan. And so if you go look at it and if you see all of these things, we are being lumped with false systems of worship, which is how the church is going to be acting against us in the future. And so persecution against true worship is coming, okay, and we will be marginalized. Don't know so much about your side, but there's a lot being written, especially on the African continent, about this. It's becoming very active again here in South Africa as well, the whole Trinity issue, the father and son. I saw somebody today being disfellowship for the 2025 thing. I've never understood that, so I don't go there, all right? But I was just reading the person's post on Facebook, and then just people replying and all saying, and I actually wrote on the welcome to a very exclusive club, because there's a lot of people outside of the church that find themselves in that same situation. So there is a push for global authority, be it from the United States, because the United States is the beast. But is this it? Is the next 4 years it? And so that statement there, the increased efforts towards global governance in 2025, I don't think that's what's happening here. But I do think what is happening from America is causing the rest of the world to push towards a combined global governance. If you take Europe and United States, for instance, and I was watching a very good 2-hour presentation to some of the senior politicians and heads and diplomats in Europe, and they were talking about NATO. This gentleman is a advisor to many, many, many governments. I must say it's one of the most informed people I've ever heard talk on international governance and on global governance and on what's happening in the world. And he basically said to Europe and to United States, guys, you must understand that the era after World War II is finished, and therefore you need to group together, form a global governance, because you need to go negotiate with Russia. You cannot allow the Americans to negotiate. That's his words. You need to go. You need to have a foreign policy and go and negotiate. So when we look at global governance, it's going to look different to maybe what you think, because everybody thinks it's going to be America. It's not. It's probably going to be Europe. And when I read some of Ellen White's comments and I research it, okay, there is mention of Europe in there, and I want to actually pursue that and see what she says about that. Might be wrong, but it's a possibility. So the beast with authority over kindreds, tongues, and nations. Well, that's what the pastor that I was referring to was sort of alluding to, authority. But does America really have authority over these people? At this stage, I don't. He might have some type of authority, but all authority, no. Okay, he might be the biggest kid in the block with the biggest of everything, but will he be there forever? No. So we still have to look at who this beast is going to be, and I think that under that, should he not have come into power, we might have been on this pathway to the end times 2 at this stage, because of the wokeness, because of the forced racism, because he's also, in terms of currency and so on, he's put the brakes on certain things in the currency, and that I know from things I've seen on LinkedIn. I've seen a couple of reports because I'm actually friends with some people in Texas, in some of the very big banks there. And I was asking, they put out a paper on digital currency the other day, which was extremely interesting for America. All right, guys, not trying to insult you here, okay, but you guys are a bit behind the block at the moment when it comes to digital currency. Europe is way ahead of you at this stage. Elon Musk might be building the biggest AI, but when it comes to digital currency, not so much. Mr. Trump has his own digital currency, or Bitcoin. I think it's called Bitmean or something, okay, that he has. So, but he's not trying to enforce it on anybody. However, throughout the world, there is a move towards federal banks, reserve banks, central banks, okay, looking at taking some of this currency on board as reserve, as part of their reserves, not to replace it, but as part of it. So, just asking the question, what is the Vatican's role in this, in the unifying of religions? Well, always will be, and always shall be, the call for ecumenical unity among Christian denominations. And it includes Adventists in call for unity. I want you just to think for a moment, why are Adventists calling for unity? Because it's actually contrary to what Ellen White wrote. Advocacy for universal day of rest, we know that. And then the symbolism, obviously, of Revelation 17, which we discussed. The marginalization of Sabbath keepers and non-Trinitarians. Marginalization of groups is a reality these days. I showed you what's happening in my country from a political, geopolitical side, but this is spilling over into churches, into factions, as they call them, everywhere. So, for instance, if you take the Middle East, okay, that is a marginalization of Sabbath keepers, by the way, some of them, okay, and they're also non-Trinitarian. So this is happening on a worldwide scale. It might not be as obvious, but it is happening. Global laws restricting religious expression. Yeah, everybody has some type of thing that they're driving on some level. But places like Russia, for instance, still does not really like religion. Um, your opposing religions don't like Christians. I saw a thing the other day, if this these religions have problems with those and these and whatever, it's going to be the end till the end of time. We gotta if people act on it because of religion, and this is what's happening here, for instance, as well, is there's become very clear cut that, for instance, in our country we have a presence of Gaza in our country. So we've got an embassy as well as a office for Hamas, which of course really your president doesn't like. So all of these things fall within that, because these people will, if they get power in this country, the first thing they will do is do away with Christendom, okay? And as an Adventist, I have to stand up and stand for what I believe. And I can believe you if you believe what the red people in the red said there on that video. It won't be far away from what will be happening. So the beast thinks to change times and laws, and governments seek to undermine true worship. So in our church, for instance, the basics of it is at this stage the acceptance of the Trinity doctrine, which has influenced. If you think of the bad blood in the church because of this, okay, it's actually astounding. It's actually one of the most tragic things that has ever happened in the Seventh-day Adventist Church if you look at through the whole history. Apart from questions on doctrine where it started, okay, and maybe sending Ellen White to Australia, but the Lord turned that around. So the acceptance of the Trinity doctrine has led to people saying that those who don't believe in the Trinity has rejected the Father, has rejected Jesus and God. And because of modern theologians embracing this, a lot of the other bad stuff has come with it, theology. So you'll see it creeping into documentation. You'll see it creeping into their presentations. Okay. And I've done the sermon where I proved what Walter Fight is actually saying about Vatican II, that it wasn't a feast that came from there. It was actually the Trinity, because at Vatican II, the church changed its definition of the Trinity. And it's word for word what the Seventh-day Adventists believe. So we were already exposed to it in 1962. Of course, the rejection of biblical feasts, and I stand with this. The appointed times established by God as perpetual statutes. The mainstream Adventism dismisses them as Jewish laws, which still poses some really interesting questions. And then, of course, the feast days and how they hold prophetic significance. So people that don't understand the value of worship and can so easily reject the days, at the end of the day, they will be the ones who will give up the Sabbath quicker than anybody else. That's just a fact. We understand the cycle. We understand how they fit. Okay, all the things around it. We do not have to go and prove to somebody why it is we worship the way we worship. The Bible says so, and that's good enough for me. And then faithful ministers preaching biblical truths are silenced. And of course, need I say no more than Dr. Conrad Vine and Pastor Kelly. There's a couple of others as well. So the acceptance of the Trinity doctrine, I'm not going to get too much in. I've spoken about the feasts. Okay. The silencing of faithful ministers is a very real thing, very sort of public at the moment. But the historical parallels at this stage is the treatment of reformers throughout history. And so the church's reform in terms of the Seventh-day Adventists is to go back to our roots. Go back to the original true remnant. Those who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Yeshua and do not conform to institutional mandates. Because folks, honestly, the church is so much into conforming. And this is where there's a major issue at the moment. The whole Conrad Vine Kelly issue is around that as well. But I'm not going to go too much into that. So the Elijah message, calling people back to true worship. return to worshiping the true God. And the true God is the Father, God the Father, His Son, Yeshua, Jesus Christ, through their Holy Spirit. Honoring the Father and Son, keeping the biblical Sabbath, observing the feast days, and rejecting, obviously, the statutes of God and the commandments. Three angels' messages calls for the true worship. And those messages in Revelation 14:6-12 form the foundation of our end-time mission and identity. And maybe as we get up to Passover now, maybe just go have a look at it again. Just see what it is. What does it mean to you? We tend to study things and then leave it because we know the facts. But how does it fit for us today? And I want you to give that some thought. So preparing for this final crisis. How will I stand when the Red Army comes to fetch me to do the things that they sing in their song? Persecution of the faithful will come in many ways. It came for Israel in many ways. It will come for us in many ways. So endurance is essential. And George, like I said, I know you want me to come and stay there at your house. I know your doors are always open. I know Sandy always will have a door open. But folks, I'll come visit you, but I will not, unfortunately, take up your kind offer to become a citizen of your country. So I need to endure. I need to go through the hard times, through money not having any value, through a dwindling or encroaching thing on us not having food. It's getting less and less. Electricity not working. Despite having so much rain and water here, our dams and our pipes don't work. So there is a massive water crisis. And you need to please pray for our friend Jenny Campbell. I spoke to her this morning. She has that she lives in a remote town. She took the moving to the country thing very seriously 5 years ago. She's now 78. She was 73 when she moved there with her sister. Her sister passed away. She now sits in a house without electricity and no water, and she can't go anywhere. No food, no money, no nothing. In the middle of nowhere, 78-year-old lady. So folks, please pray for Jenny. Okay. Those are the type of trials people will face. Those are the real things that happens worldwide, and not just here. It will happen in many countries across the world. We need to deepen our relationship with Yeshua. Once again, Sandy, always keep saying what you're saying. Who is in charge? You must actually make that the motto of the ministry, because it really actually just reminded me so much of I mustn't be inward focused. I must focus on the Lord. You need to study, and I'm going to study. And like I said, I know some of you don't like the AI and whatever. I'm utilizing it, and we were speaking from a Christian perspective. And by the way, there's 48 people in my group at the moment. We're all learning. You will not believe it. The bulk of them are Christians. The bulk of them. They've got Christian ministries. We are talking to each other. I have identified myself as Seventh-day Adventists who keep the feasts. I have no less than 20 people who have been phoning me over the last 2 weeks that I'm sending books to. So Sandy, the books are going out. So small gatherings like we have here will become important. So political world aligning with prophecy, current events reflecting biblical prophecies, like I said, political shifts. Mr. Trump won't be there forever. 4 years from now, who knows where the world will be. I'm hoping it's in a better place for everybody, including ourselves. Okay. The biggest thing for us as Adventists is the apostasy within the church. People really going off at tangents, trying to find things that they are not. Stick to the basics. Focus on the Lord. And it's always been work until he comes. Suppression of true worship will be there in the end. It's not quite there yet. And then God's remnant standing for the truth. We are part of that remnant, irrespective of how you want to put it. If you're in the church, outside of the church, we are that remnant because we stand for the truth. So uphold the true doctrine, the teachings of the Father and the Son. Let us joyfully honor the appointed times, the true Sabbath. Let us stand firm in our faith and support each other spiritually and through prayer. And may we all be faithful in the face of all these trials that are coming, holding on to an unshakable word of God. Our Father in heaven, Lord, thank you so much that I could share this evening. And Lord, it's been a bit of a different one this evening. But Lord, thank you for leading my words. And Lord, let this be to your honor. Let us examine where we are. Let us relook at the prophecies. Let us know that you have provided a messenger to lead us through her words that she wrote through this church that we believe in, albeit that we're not in that church, most of us. But we will always be Seventh-day Adventists at heart, those who keep the true commandments of God, those who honor and worship you, Lord. And whatever might be, that it be to your honor and to your glory. In the mighty name of your Son, Yeshua. Amen.
Thank you, Hein. I just want to say real quick, there are all kinds of groups, as you mentioned, and there's a lot of them that I'm not saying that we're perfect by any means, but like you said, what Daddy had, I do believe is a good thing. And we believe in the Father and the Son. His Spirit comes to us, their Spirit. We believe in the feast and, other things. Whereas some churches have gone off on all kinds of things. Anything matters. Like I think it's the visitor. I think Mark is here. Mark Hart was talking about how the visitor talked about, keeping Easter, it's a good thing, and all these other things just in the last issue. And that's, from the church. And then there's different groups that come up that think we're awful because of the feast, and they keep all the holidays, but they're father and son and gotta have that. And I'm like, why do they all get so angry? I don't want to be angry.
No.
I just want people to know what I believe, why I do, and if they don't agree, that's okay. You love them anyway. But these people get fighting, and like you said, on they get nasty on there, and I don't understand that, and I never like that, and I will just either delete my comments if someone starts going off, or just and again, I'm not perfect by any means, but some of these people really, but I think that we're ready to get out there to the world and let the world see it. And like you said, with your group, there are people out there that don't even know what a Seventh-day Adventist is, but they'll find out what we have. And I'm a Seventh-day Adventist because of what I believe, but I'm not a member of the church, not part of that. And people just need to know our beliefs and what we, what we teach, what God's beliefs, what God wants, not mine. But anyway, that's just my little 2 cents.
I hope it's not too terrible that it gets taken off or whatever. I try to really be
No, it was
careful
fine.
about what I said.
I didn't like hearing that man talk like he did. That was pretty ugly. But no, I understand.
It's on YouTube. You can go watch it. It's on YouTube.
None of us know what's going to happen next. Whether our leaders are good or bad. There's some in all places. Africa has a lot of bad things, but I'm sure they have good things because you like the country. But people are just, and the church doesn't help. A lot of the church is just really messing things up and making it hard, and people believe them, so they think they're safe. And I'm like, because you go there and they say that we're wrong or that's wrong, you're going to follow them, have your little Easter egg hunt on Sunday.
Well, what's interesting, Sandy, we have in this country, and let's do it according to race, and I've mentioned it before, and you can go look at the statistics of the Southern Indian Ocean Union, which is my union that we sit in, which is the 5 countries, including Madagascar, okay, around us. So Namibia, Lesotho, Swaziland, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Botswana, okay, and then Madagascar, that's Southern Indian Ocean. In there is, well, let's just take my country, South Africa. We are a contingent of about 135,000 Seventh-day Adventists, of which 25,000 is white, Boere, okay, or settlers, as they sometimes call white people, okay. Now, that other part of it, the over 100,000 traditional black Adventists, when that person speaks in the way he speaks, and it's all over the news, it's all over social media in South Africa. There's not a person, if you have a TikTok account, the X account, it will be up because that's what the logarithm says. It's South Africa, so it will come up. Okay. What are they saying? Not a word. Not a word. They know that that evolution doesn't exist because that is a race-based or critical race theory that they teach at university to these people. Okay, they know that that's wrong. What are they doing? They're too scared and they stand back. So that's why I say you cannot trust on the official church. You actually cannot even trust on some of the brethren around you because they're not going to help you when they come for you.
Okay.
And that's
You
why the
know-
only person you can trust on is God.
You know, Hein,
Yes.
here in America, you go to a town and the town will have a Seventh-day Adventist church for whites. They'll have a Seventh-day Adventist church for blacks.
Yes, same here.
They have not attempted to have a unity.
That's what I said right in the beginning in South
Yeah.
Africa, and it was a court case that actually merged them at the end of the day. But I don't want to
Well-
talk about that type of whatever because, for me it was so strange, Keith. I grew up. I wrote something the other day. For 62 years of my life, I've lived under apartheid. Folks, I don't know if you understand what apartheid is. Okay, so 30 years. Up until 1990, whatever it was, 294, whatever, when we as white people voted to do away with apartheid, with the laws, the race-based laws, to unban the whatever, okay? It was the young people, it was 67% of the white people who decided that we're going to walk away from that. We could have continued. Okay, we had the money, we had everything. We had the army, we had the best army on the African continent. Today, they are Kentucky Fried Chicken specialists. They are so fat they can't get on the back of a flipping truck. Okay, we most of our army is up in the DRC at the moment, being held hostage, prisoners by that country. But anyways, the fact of the matter is, it's still there. It's still this divide, and the church is doing nothing.
You also brought up the Seventh-day Adventist call for unity. Call for unity within a church or with other churches?
Both.
Because you see, if it's with other churches, that takes away us being a peculiar church, peculiar people.
And here's the thing, okay? So when they come to you or me, like if they come to me, and they have come to me and said, renounce everything you believe, and you can become part of the church again. And you can become part of the saved. Because in my case, I was told when the last letter was sent to me and I had my discussion with the pastor, that I must realize, first of all, that I needed to be rebaptized if I ever wanted to enter the church. And this is what he said to me, young pastor, for all whatever, okay, I'm actually now lost. So I need to he told me that. Keith, I'm not lying to you. He sat in my lounge here and he told me I'm lost.
And you know what that means? He is in a place where he needs nothing.
Correct.
Yep.
Laodicean.
Brent, are you there? I know you had your hand up.
Oh, somebody had their hand
yeah.
up. Oh, I'm going to ask me a question.
Yeah, no, I'm here and I just, wanted to say it was good to see a different perspective from a different part of the world. And it just confirms how even the elect are being fooled and just the times we're really living in. So appreciate that. And Sandy, are we still, do you need to restart the,
Yes, I'll restart it. Are you ready?
oh yeah, I didn't want to cut anything off. I just wanted to make sure to see when I should put
Okay.
my.
I will
Hello?
turn it off and start again.
Mark said. Hello. Wondered about that.
Go ahead,
Anyone there?
Mark.
Yeah, we're here.
I guess, first of all, Shabbat Shalom. I'm glad to be back after my long